Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of DB's Comic Talk. Today we are going to be going over this DC event coming up, Dark Knight's Metal. You can consider this your guide to Dark Knight's Metal to get you ready for this big event coming up in the Batman DC universe. So to do that, I waited for a while here before I reviewed these two Dark Days book because the casting just came out last week. Wanted to give everybody a chance to get it and read it. So you had the Forge, and then you had the casting. We were going to go through these books, sort of break them down for you a little bit, and get you ready for Dark Knight's Metal, which is coming out here in September, October timeframe. So these books, we're going to start with the Forge. One thing you have to know about these books, it's clever the way they broke them up. They had really awesome covers, a lot of different variants on them. A lot of different artists. You had Romita Jr. in here, you had Jim Lee, a lot of different writers. The art's really good in it. They're really well done. $4.99 book, a little pricey, but you get a lot with it, so it's not too bad. These books are broken down in three ways. First way is you have Hawkman, which is basically categorizing his journey through time, his reincarnation. It's getting into the story that he wasn't just born at the time with Hatshepsut at the Egyptian time and all the things he went through there about being born there, that he has a little bit more origin, that his origin goes back to the dawn of creation, basically, is what they're saying, that Set had removed some stuff from his timeline, and, they get into that here a little bit more, which we'll get into. So it's his journey, his diary, everything he's encountering. Second part you have is everything that Batman's experiencing. Batman has a lot going on. He knows a lot about this metal. It's his journey through setting up where he's going to be in Dark Knight's Metal. The third part is through the eyes right now of Hal Jordan and Batman's sidekick Duke Thomas, and what they're uncovering and what they're going through. So, getting into the Forge, like I said, starts off with the Hawkman piece, talking about his past, talking about when the ship arrived from Thanagar, where they got their metal from. Now, this metal, if you remember in comic books, was called Myth Metal, but it was called Ninth Metal back in like the Gold and Silver Age of comics. So it's going to have a lot to do with Hawkman and their metal and everything that they use as far as their weapons, their ability to fly with it. It's in their wings, it's in their belts. This is a storyline that I guess Snyder had came up with a long time ago when they first started doing Rebirth and everything that they originally wanted to get into. Not Rebirth, I'm sorry, New 52. Everything that they wanted to do in 52, they put seeds of this all through Batman arcs, everything that he did, everything from the Court of Owls up to when he was replaced by Commissioner Gordon as Batman, and when he traveled through time, when he tried to duplicate himself. All these were laying seeds to this storyline, which I think it's cool. Even though they rebirthed the universe, they're still touching on this and incorporating it. So you get in here, I thought there's a really cool scene in here where Batman comes through an active volcano in this giant bat suit to rescue this one doctor, Dr. Madison here. It's pretty cool because the suit's actually melting while he's coming through the volcano, and it's barely hanging on. He actually tells Aquaman, who's guiding him through the volcano, that he's barely got anything left, and he ejects from the suit just in time. It's just cool. Batman always has cool tech. There was good stuff with that. We then cut to Green Lantern here, who the Guardians are telling him that he needs to go to Earth because there's something not right. And actually it leads him straight to the Batcave, which is kind of interesting because Hal and Bruce, they don't actually have the best relationship. So seeing the two of them together and, him invading the Batcave without Bruce's permission is usually a pretty interesting story. Duke arrives, sort of kicks out. They have a little bit of a fight here. And it's funny because Hal kind of comments on, what are you, the new Robin? What kind of name? Would you have a name yet? Because Duke Thomas, that's been the thing that he doesn't have a name. They haven't called him Robin. They haven't called him anything yet. He's just sort of been a sidekick in training. So they have a nice little interaction here where Hal's going to dig deeper into the cave to find out this disturbance. A little bit of history on here on Duke Thomas's parents. As you know, they were tormented by the Joker, given that Joker gas, and now they're crazy people. This is sort of touching into the Immortal Men, which I think is a comic that's going to spin out of this. There's going to be more about Duke's parents, that there's something more to them than they are. They're special, which you get into more in the next book. In the next page, we get the Hawks again, talking about their past, more about just where they were and what they've done, the times they fought. It's really sort of, I think, bringing Hawkman back to the forefront, which he was kind of changed in New 52 a lot, and they went a different route with him, which they're getting back to his origin. And I've always liked Hawkman. Him and Hawkgirl, they're pretty cool characters. Flash forward to the next scene here, we get Batman arriving on his moon base, which is kind of surprising to me because over in Action Comics right now, the moon base was taken over by Cyborg Superman. And this moon base they've used a lot in Rebirth so far. Lois was there for a while. They fought the Eradicator there. So now they're back to the moon base here where Batman runs into Mr. Terrific. So now we find out that Mr. Terrific was sent to the New 52 universe to Earth 2 during the New 52 storyline. And that's where he's been. I mean, I know they shoved him over there because his book sales were going kind of bad at the time. And they thought maybe if they mixed him into there, he would work better with that sort of knockoff version of the JSA. But now you find out that Batman sent him there to do some research. Batman was having him look into the metal on that planet, looking into different dimensions. Batman's looking for something. So the next cool scene then we get is a talk about Plastic Man. Plastic Man's obviously been held captured here. Not captured, it's a bad term, but apparently his powers were too out of control. So they felt like if we put him in this containment, it looks like they have him sort of maybe frozen. And Batman looks like he's been sampling with part of Plastic Man's ability. I've always been a big Plastic Man fan. I mean, I think he's interesting. I like the way they portray his character, that even though he is goofy and funny, he's actually pretty powerful. And there's some things that he could do that, like Batman says in here, he didn't even know his own limits. So it's interesting to see what they're going to do with him, how they're going to use him. I mean, it's interesting they're using a character called Plastic Man in a storyline called Metal, which I find amusing. Maybe I'm the only one. Then we jump back to Hal Jordan, and him and Duke are here exploring. They find out that Batman has a secret ops team called the Outsiders, that they've been doing some different things for him. I mean, in this Rebirth universe, Batman has so much shit going on. I don't know how the guy has any time to do anything. I mean, he has his own Justice League. He has the regular Justice League. He has an Outsiders team here. He's involved in everything. He kind of reminds me of Wolverine in like the late 2000s, where he was like in every Avengers book and every X-Men book, where he was oversaturated. I just don't want that to happen to him, where it turns like a different Wolverine and he's just not in anything now. You know, I don't want that to happen with him. But he doesn't have an Outsiders book, so it's okay. If he's doing this on the side, you know, it's not really that big of a deal. Some cool appearances in there. You got Metamorpho, you got Black Lightning, Katana, a lot of cool throwback pre-New 52 type designs too. So that's cool to see that they're all getting some of these characters back. That's really where I feel like they're going with this book, is they're bringing back a lot of classics. Plastic Man coming back, Mr. Terrific, the Outsiders. So it's pretty interesting. They further dig down a little deeper here. You see them outside some walls. Someone's talking to them and sort of leading them along, talking about something's amiss here. Batman's up to something. Batman found something out. They get into more of that a little bit later. Touch more a little bit on Hawkman's origins again. Just some stuff about him and Thanagar, and you see the different masks that he's worn over the years. They talk about tribes in the past, where there was like a bird tribe and there was a bat tribe, and they fought each other, and they're going to get more into the past, I think, as they dig deeper here. So now we get out to the Arctic, to the Fortress of Solitude. This I thought was pretty interesting. This is Batman showing up at Superman's doorstep, telling him, hey, remember that room I had for you that I told you never to go in, never to touch anything in there? I need to get in there. And you can't ask me any questions about it, and you can't get in my way. And I brought Mr. Miracle along here because I need his help. And Superman just basically says, okay, sure, yeah. Like, not even going to question him. Not even like, what is it? What are you getting into? It's just sort of that relationship they have where they trust each other. I like to see that now Rebirth Superman and Batman here, they're putting them back together. They were a little bit on edge. They didn't really know each other. Now that Superman's went through the Reborn saga, and now, you know, they're getting more back together. They're getting stronger again, which is good because these two have the best relationship in comics, in my eyes, in my opinion. So Mr. Miracle helps him break into this thing. And basically what it leads to is that Mr. Miracle says, you're out of your mind, because we see that it's one of those giant tuning forks from In Crisis on Infinity Earth. So this is one of the things that the Anti-Monitor used to bring the different universes, the different realms together. and Batman just has one, and he's keeping it at the Fortress of Solitude. So that can't be a good thing. This is just leading into the Batman's going to try and to open up some dimensional portals with this. So finally, then we get to the end of this book, the end of the Forge, is Duke Thomas and Hal uncover that there's a Joker hidden underneath the Batcave. Why he's there, you find that out in the casting. We'll get in that here in 1 minute. But he's just writing crazy shit all over the wall and acting like a lunatic. Really cool, interesting first book. When I read The Forge about a month ago, I was excited. I was excited for all this prospects and everything that they have coming up. It's a really cool book. It's really well done. You should definitely check it out. It is kind of hard to understand some of the things that they touch in here. If you're not a Mr. Terrific fan and you didn't know who Plastic Man was, you probably didn't get those references. But that's why you're listening to me, so you understand who this all is. So we get into now the casting. Again, a lot of different covers for this. I went with the Batman, Joker, Hal Jordan cover because those are some cool characters on there. This opens up with the Hawks. Again, classic Hawkman, classic Hawkgirl costume. I'm not really sure what time frame this takes place. I assume this is the past because you have a lot of interesting people showing up in the crowd here. It looks like we have the Wizard Shazam. We have Ra's al Ghul. We have this Miss Seward, who is like a classic vampire in DC Comics. And they're all sort of having this like magical gathering. I'm sure there's some other names that we would drop in here. Maybe Vandal Savage is in here. Maybe Clarion the Witch Boy. Who knows? I mean, there could be lots of different cool cameos here. They're talking about magic. They're talking about this metal. They're talking about the Hawk's origin and all these different things that they're getting into here. And you see this sort of dagger that's pulled out by the wizard, and we get into more where that comes from later. Jump forward to Greece with Batman fighting some weird, like, griffin. He's actually breaking into one of the gods here who had like a, I want to call it like not like a museum, but like a observatory place here where he had special magical weapons. There's a lot of different pictures. There's something that actually looks like Thor's hammer there. There's a couple other weirdly looking like magical weapons and lore and stuff in here. And Batman wants to go in and talk to this guy. Again, Batman's onto something. He's onto that something's not right in the multiverse. Something's going on. He's tasted this power before, and he wants to know what's going on with it. So he's investigating. They do sort of a weird exchange of swords here. He gets his fire sword from Wonder Woman. It's made out of 8th metal. We talked about that earlier, how Hawkman's 9th metal, 9th metal, all connected. So this stuff's all connected. It all has a lot of interesting stuff. I don't understand how he put the fire sword right in his utility belt, but, you know, it's comics. We then jump to the Green Lantern portion again here, and you have Green Lantern and Duke talking to the Joker. This really is getting into where you find out that this Joker, if you go back to DC New 52, there was a storyline called Death of the Family. It was sort of like a continuation of Death in the Family when Joker killed Jason Todd. This is when the Joker basically tried to kill the entire Bat family. He had his face sort of stitched on, all crazy-like looking, and it was a big storyline that would end with him dying in the Batcave, falling into like this big cavern. He lands in some of this special metal from these different dark dimensions, and it sort of heals him. It heals his face. It brings him back to normal, but he's prisoner down here. Batman traps him down here, so this is that Joker. So I would consider this probably the main storyline Joker. This is Joker from the New 52 line who bleeds into the Rebirth universe. This is probably your main Joker. I know there's listed as to be 3 of them, and they haven't really touched on what that means, but this is probably your main storyline Joker right now that Batman's been keeping hidden. And because of touching this metal, he knows something. He knows about the metal, he knows about different stories, he knows about what Batman's been up to, and he's using Duke to try and get out and escape. We didn't have a nice page here where they talk about Hawkman's journal again. You see references to the old Blackhawks. You see references to Challengers of the Unknown. These are all things that I think, again, are going to be brought back and sort of redone in Rebirth. I think you're going to see definitely some kind of Challengers book again because it's listed as something coming out in solicitations at the end of the year. Don't be surprised you don't see more of the Blackhawks organization and all that they do. They talk about in here more about a bat demon from a long time ago. Again, this is stuff that they referenced when Batman was back in time and traveled through time and all the different bat storylines throughout the ages. So it's all going to end up being connected here some way or another. They show in the next page this little scene of a demon of some sort, this dark force that's coming from another dimension that ended up apparently killing the old challengers of the unknown, which is kind of shocking. So interesting to see where they go with that, where these eyes are. I thought it was the Sparrow, honestly, when I first looked at it because of the eye in the middle, but it would be kind of weak if the main villain of Dark Knight's Metal was just a Sparrow. So next flash forward to Batman talking here. You see Doublix from the Cadmus fame. Cadmus, what do I call it? Cadmus. And they get into, if you remember him from like the old Superboy runs and all that, he was there for a long time. Telekinetic, telepathic alien. He then meets up with Talia al Ghul. They do sort of a metal switch. 8th metal, the sword he got for Wonder Woman, for some 9th metal, which is actually the power of Shazam and a dagger that Batman takes. Not really much goes on here. These two just talk. You understand that these two do share a son, Damian Wayne, together, so it is always a little awkward when they get together, but it is cool to see them in action. Next, we get back into with the Joker here, who's trying to destroy this machine. Now, for those of you who don't know, this machine, I believe that this is the machine that Batman used in the New 52 run when he was trying to duplicate himself. He was trying to clone himself. In case something ever happened as a contingency plan, there would always be a Bruce Wayne. He ended up dying before he could use it, and I think this is one of the machines he used when he time jumped through all that time. The Joker's trying to destroy it. Him and Duke have a little fight here, and then he lets Duke Thomas know. He refers to him as the Signal. Now, a lot of people I see on Newsarama and these other sites jumped up and said that this is going to be what his name is. The Signal is who he is. I don't think that's his comic book name. I don't think that's his code name. I think that's what they're referring to him as, that he's a signal of hope or signal of darkness. He's a signal of something. I don't think that's what they're actually going to call him, though. But they do go on and say that he is a metahuman, that his mother was a metahuman. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Duke here, what kind of powers they're going to give him. Like I've said before in our podcast, I love Duke Thomas. He is a perfect example of diversity in comics. He's a perfect example of staying true to the story, but giving us something new and fresh. He's a great character. Check him out. So then we have a little bit of the Hawks here, wrapping up the journal story with Hawkman actually going into a portal into this dark dimension. So I think once we get into this dark dimension, this is going to be the return of the pre-New 52 Hawkman. I think this is going to be the original one returning JSA-style Hawkman. I think this shows you that he went somewhere and they did something here and went in another dimension. You see signs of like that he wiped out the Blackhawks. He went to another, there's some Thanagar technology. There's a lot in this page to absorb. You can read it multiple different ways and take it different ways. But I think Hawkman's out there somewhere, and this is how they're going to bring him back. We then skip to the Joker, again, with Hal Jordan here. Batman comes back. Batman's pissed that he's here. They have quite an interesting conversation where Batman kind of explains, like I told you before, about that machine, how he created it, how he used it, and that he's been gathering all these objects of metal, all these different things from Wonder Woman's gauntlets to Trident of Aquaman, and all these different helmets and different things that have this metal in it. He's trying to open up a dimension, a portal to this dark dimension. Something is pulling it to him. Batman has that metal in him that brought him back to life that the Quarter Owls use. I'm not going to try and butcher that name. You know which one I'm talking about if you read those books. He has this metal coursing through him, so he's connected to it. I think anybody who has this metal in their blood somehow is connected to this dark dimension. So Batman's trying to somehow open up a gateway there to figure out this mystery of what's calling out to him. You see Green Lantern gives Duke his ring so he can build him the actual machine for Batman, but it doesn't actually work, and it doesn't turn out how they want it to be. Batman doesn't understand what happened, but the book now here ends with these sort of cult-looking bat creatures calling out that a dimensional portal was open. And in the final page you see, which they've been hinting towards, is the Dark Knights who are going to be coming from this dark multiverse are all sort of versions of Batman who have different Justice League powers. So it appears there's going to be a version of Batman that has the Speed Force. Whatever he did to get it, he has it. I saw some of the solicitations that he's as smart and cunning as Bruce, but he has the speed and all that of Barry. So he's like unstoppable. There's one that's like a ruler of Atlantis, one that's like a ruler of Themyscira. There looks like to be all these different versions. Then they released an image of them where they show them all for the metal crossover, and they have names like the Merciless, the Drowned, the Dawnbreaker, Breaker, the Devastator. So they're all the Red Death is the Flash one I was talking about. So they're going to get into all these characters that are like evil versions of Batman. So this is basically something that I think people have wanted to see. I mean, people have talked about Batman taking on the DC universe for a long time. These are evil versions of Batman, each paired with their superpower going against like the original. So I don't know if that's all going to be what the whole story is. There's other parts of this. There's a thing coming up called Batman Lost, where he's like stuck in a dark dimension. I think it's going to be, these evil versions of Batman taking over our multiverse, coming into our world, our heroes fighting against them, Batman having to find his way back so he can, of course, help them. It'll probably be Batman who ends up taking them down anyway. Why not, right? But it's going to be cool. I mean, the books have been solid. Like I said, it's a lot of throwbacks to classic stuff, which I think people like. It's throwbacks to old characters before New 52. I feel this, if you're reading this, you're getting a lot of that classics stuff with a lot of cool new things. You get to Return of the Joker. Over on the other side, you're going to have Superman fighting Mr. Oz, dealing with all the rebirth stuff. I can see these all connecting somehow down the road. But go check it out. There's a lot of books coming out here in the next couple of months. I think coming up in the next days, we get Dark Knight's Metal in August. Then you have some spin-outs from that in September and October and December. New challengers coming out, a couple new books spinning out of that. But it's going to be really neat. Go check it out. Let me know what you think about it. I hope this guide here, I know is a little longer than usual. I hope it helps you understand these books a little bit better. Leave me some feedback on what you think about them. And we'll get ready for Dark Knight's Metal here coming out next month. Should be cool. Till then, thanks again for listening. I really do appreciate all the views and all the likes. And we'll keep making these if you keep watching them. So have a good one. Take care. Later.